Four ways to get unstuck and own your story. My name is Tabitha Christopher of tabithachristopher.com. I am the creator and founder of the MINDstyle Makeover Bootcamp. It's a character and resilience building training program for students in high school and college, providing them with a roadmap to thrive inside and outside the classroom. And tonight, for our MINDstyle Makeover Mondays chat, which happens every single Monday right here on Instagram, on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. But just to let you know, this conversation, all the conversations are stored on my YouTube channel for you to be able to catch all of the previous episodes. We're in episode 9 of our MINDstyle Makeover Mondays chat. Tonight, we're going to be chatting about 4 ways to get unstuck and own your story. Now, I had mentioned in my Instagram story about how I used exercise, excessive, extreme forms of exercise to help me with avoiding the pains of my past. And those extreme forms of exercise would always lead to exhaustion and the breaking down of my body, which would cause multiple injuries, etc. And that's not what exercise is for. That's not what it's meant for. Exercise is meant to rejuvenate, to build you up, to get you stronger so that you can do everything that you need to do every day with work, with your family, and more effectively. But I was using it in a way to help me avoid stuff. And so it was actually doing the exact opposite of what exercise is for. And in addition to that, I cut the people off in my life that caused me the most hurt. And I would stay away from environments, places that would trigger past traumas. Now, psychologists would say, and many other mental health experts would say, everyone heals in their own way. And I've often read where it is recommended to do certain things, to help you to heal. As you're on this healing journey, you may have to stay away from certain environments. You may have to cut certain people out of your life. You may have to create space between those who've hurt you. So I did all of those things. I took all those suggestions in, and I do believe that there is, when you're in a situation that is life-threatening, it is necessary where someone is they have physically attempted to harm you, or they have spoken it out of their mouth that they will do so. It is wise to remove yourself as quickly as possible from that situation until that person gets the help that they need and you get the help that you need to heal from that situation. And it may be wise to not go back into that situation until that person that person who was threatening you has done the work to help them to get into a more healthy space of their mind so that they're not looking to harm you the next time you try to engage with them. Well, if your situation isn't that, cutting people out of your life because they make you feel uncomfortable or because they may be toxic in their conversation, but they're not trying to physically harm your life or take your life from you, those are things that can be worked through. And I would say for myself, because I gotten into that habit of I cut the one person out of my life that, yes, was physically threatening to my life and others around me. But then I also took that habit on with anyone that in my own perceptions that I created, my preconceived perceptions of other individuals, I would heighten what I saw on individuals and would remove myself from them. And I saw that I was using a lot of the past trauma that I went through to give me reason, to give me the excuse to justify why I could cut these certain people out of my life, right? Even though they weren't trying to physically harm me, right? So again, some would say Everyone heals in their own unique way. Let me just be, I'm gonna be straight up with you. I wasn't healing. I wasn't. I was stuck. I was avoiding. I was avoiding the pains of my past, and I wanted to avoid any person or any situation that reminded me remotely of the hurt that I experienced. So, what was happening? I was not I wasn't dealing with the hurt. I was suppressing it. I was holding it close to my heart so that it was a reminder so that I could be able to easily identify any potential person that could probably harm me, right? Even though they haven't really done anything remotely close to what the individual that I cut out of my life had done, right? So for many years, I avoided. For many years, I avoided and I avoided that pain through exercise. I avoided that pain again through cutting people off. I avoided that pain by avoiding certain situations and circumstances, environments that reminded me of my past. And it wasn't until I met this really good friend of mine. She was my client to start off with, and she witnessed me at a very low point of exhaustion and extreme pain and fatigue. And she pressed in and she asked, okay, what's your real story? What are you running from? And I reluctantly opened up. So that's number one. That's number one of the four ways to get unstuck. And these are four things that I did to help me to get unstuck and own my story. I'm going to share them with you. If you find that you're in that same place where you're like, yeah, I run from challenging conversations. I avoid certain people that make me feel uncomfortable, or I get triggered around them. They remind me of something in my past that I just don't want to deal with. I just want to let it stay in the past. Let me just share with you, Trailblazer. Avoiding it isn't keeping that thing in the past. It's still right there in the present with you. How do we know this? Because that individual or those persons or that situation, that environment is able to bring up out of you an emotional response that you don't like. You don't like when you feel that way. You don't like when you think that way, right? And that's an indicator that that thing that you're avoiding is not in the past. It is very much with you in the present, and it's affecting your health and your well-being tremendously. Tremendously. So the number one thing, the first thing that I did of the four things is one, I shared with well, she became a good friend of mine. She first was a client, but I shared with someone who would empower me to make the wise decision based on who I am versus what happened to me. And I think that's where a lot of times I speak for myself and from the therapy sessions that I went through that for years that didn't work. They provide a lot of great tools and resources, to help me with regulating my emotions or controlling my temper and all that kind of stuff. But I would still get triggered. I would still find myself avoiding, running away from, taking flight, or getting into a fight position to try to protect my heart and protect my peace. So I wasn't healed. I wasn't at peace. I was still just avoiding. And or I may learn how to speak very fancy to the situation, but I'm still hurt. I'm still triggered. I'm still bothered by that person. I'm still bothered by this situation or this environment. So that's not freedom. I wasn't free. And I'm sharing this with you because you deserve to be free. You deserve to be free. You deserve to know how to own your story. So, number one, I shared with someone who empowered me to make the wise decision. I didn't say the easy decision. They empower me to make the wise decision based on who I am and the legacy story that I want to create, that I want to be remembered for, who I am versus what happened to me. Because what was happening was I was allowing what had happened to me to create my identity that I was living in the present. So what had happened to me, my past, had shaped the present person that I was becoming, that I didn't want to become that. I didn't want to become that, right? But when we avoid or when we judge or condemn those individuals that hurt us, which is raising ourselves up above them as though we're better than, based on whatever choice they made, whatever unhealthy choices they made, and we're like, well, I would never do that. I would never put anyone through that type of stuff. And we judge and condemn in that way, which I know I did. And so I started to become that very thing that I didn't want in my life, that I was trying to avoid, versus face. So again, number one, share with someone who will empower you to make the wise decision. Again, not the easy one, the wise decision based on who you are, not what happened to you. Okay? And so, what my good friend Julianne Hartman encouraged me to do was she encouraged me to tell my story and to not allow for what happened to me to have such a powerful hold on me to the point of where it was literally controlling every decision of what I was making in my life, who I would talk to, where I would go, who I would avoid, who I would cut out, who I was acting as if though they didn't even exist anymore. Like for me, in my mind, I thought that in order for me to be able to get through life, I had to make up in my mind that that person who hurt me the most in my life was dead to me. So I literally would never mention their name. I wouldn't talk about them. It was as if though they never existed. And I thought that that would help me. That was my way of, one, getting back at them, because I know that would hurt them, right? And so I was trying to get back at them, revenge, which we know that's not healthy. And the only person that's hurting the most is the person that has that revenge in their heart. So um one moment, let me get back on track with where I was going with this. Yeah, so anyways, let me just get back here. So yeah, so Julianne encouraged me to share, so to tell my story, right? So that was number two. I started to write down the story that I avoided for many years. Like, there was this one incident that took place when I was 6 years old that shifted a lot in my life, in my childhood. And I allowed for that moment at 6 years old to also have a great impact continuing on forward into many, 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 many more years of my life. And so I wrote that story down, that pivotal moment in my childhood. I wrote it down. And the third thing that I did was I started to look at, okay, how is this story going to help anyone else? So I went out to share that pivotal moment with others. And lo and behold, I met a number of other people who had shut down at a very early age in childhood because something similar had took place in their life, or some other kind of trauma that happened that from that moment had influenced and controlled and owned them for many, many decades later in their life. And in me sharing, that was the third thing, me sharing with others, it empowered others to want to face what they had allowed to own them for decades of their life. I had an older gentleman that was in his late 50s, early 60s, that had not cried since he was 8 years old. Can you imagine? Since he was 8 years old, when that pivotal traumatic moment happened to him in his life, he shut down. And from 8 years old up until when I met him, he was about 58, about, I think he was 58 years old. He had not cried until that night when I opened up and shared that moment, that story. And he was the one who encouraged me to come back and to keep sharing. And so then the fourth thing that I did was forgive. Now that word in itself has, in so many ways, carries such a negative connotation in our world society, but it's the one thing that is the key to unlocking our freedom. It's so interesting how the very thing that would help us to own our story and live free is the very thing that we have been deceived into thinking that we should avoid doing at all cost. And in us avoiding it, we stay stuck. We stay stuck in that cycle of blaming, blaming other people, or blaming our life circumstances of what's been handed to us. Oh, well, if I was born into a different family, or this person didn't do this to me, or if the government would have made this decision, or if this was happening in our culture, or this was happening in the market, I would be doing a whole lot better. So it puts us in a position of where we are not, we're stuck, and we're not taking accountability of what choices we have the power to make for our story, and then we stay stuck. So again, number one, share. Share. And if you're like, well, I don't even know what it is at this point, but I've been living so long in this state of mental stuckness, I can't even decipher what it was or what it is that has me in this position of where I feel stuck. You may be there. You may very well be there. I was there. I was there for quite a bit, and it's that's understandable. You know, when we spend so many years avoiding the issues, and distracting ourselves with so many other things of life. I could see how it can become very easy to not even be able to trace what or pinpoint what it is that got us there, stuck in the first place. I totally get it. And if that's where you are, I would encourage you to not go through sifting through your past to try to figure out what it was. Be present in the moment of now. Be present in the moment of now, and just simply, you're going to share with someone who will empower you to make the wise, healthy decision based on who you are and not what happened to you or what you may think happened to you. You're going to share, look, I am stuck. I don't know what it is. I am stuck. And what it is, oftentimes when we're in that place of being stuck, it's fear. Is the fear of the unknown, or is the fear of failure, or is the fear of success and not knowing how to manage that success? It's bottom line, it's fear, right? So to share with someone, say, hey, look, I'm afraid. I don't know what it is. And honestly, it doesn't matter what it is I'm afraid of. I just feel afraid, and I want to move past this. And make sure you share it with someone that's going to empower you to make the wise and healthy decision based on who you were created to be, which is power, love, and a sound mind. Power, love, and a sound mind. Don't share with someone that's going to wallow in despair and self-pity with you, or try to justify the feeling and like, oh yeah, well, I mean, well, look at the market. How could you not be afraid? Don't talk to anybody like that. They're not going to help you to get unstuck. They're going to help to keep you right where you are. Okay? You're going to want to have a conversation with someone that you know will speak truth, speak life into you. It's not just, oh, well, let me just tell you about yourself. No, speak life into you. They're going to tell you about yourself. They're going to tell you about who you are. Power, love, and a sound mind. Okay? And then number two, just start to write. You may not know where to start. Just start to write. Get your thoughts out of your head, journal them, get them down on a sheet of paper. And as you start to write, the more often you write, put pen to paper, you're going to start to see you're going to gain more clarity through your thinking as you get your thoughts out of your head. And then number three, you're going to share with people who will empower you forward to continuing to make the wise and healthy decisions in your life. And then number four, whether it's forgiving yourself for being so hard on you, or if you know who in your life you need to forgive for whatever reason, doesn't matter what the reason is. And I mean that. I do. Absolutely do mean that. Oftentimes people are like, well, you don't know what happened to me. You don't know my story. Listen to me, Trailblazer. We could go around the fire that the campfire, sharing all of our stories and which one is worse versus the other. And at the end of our share, no one is better off than where we were in the beginning. What's the point of that? It's a waste of time, a waste of hot air. It is. Okay? So it's forgive those who hurt you so that you can continue to move forward in living in the present future. The present future. Present future. I hope that I hope that what I shared tonight helps you in some way, shape, or form. If you have any questions about what I talked about, you can reach out to me. Contact us at tabithachristopher.com. Contact us at tabithachristopher.com. I'm going to put the email address up here. There we go. I can't put it up there on Instagram, but I will say it. Contact us at tabithachristopher.com. There's also a way in which you can DM me on Instagram if you're watching this live on Instagram. Yeah, so just reach out. So for any of you that are committed to building up the now and next generation of effective and healthy leaders, right? You are working in a field of where, or you have students that are in high school or college, and you're wanting them to build up their character, build up resilience so that they can thrive inside and outside the classroom. Right now, you can join my wait list for my MINDstyle Makeover Bootcamp. It's a character and resilience building training program that walks students through the steps of how to create their own blueprint legacy success story, the story that they desire to live and be remembered for. I walk them through that process, through this curriculum, and they also learn how to activate the life formula of success in their life so that they can own their story and thrive academically, athletically, socially, and emotionally. It is transformative. It is powerful. So you can go to my website, www.tabithachristopher.com. That's www.tabithachristopher.com to learn more about the MINDstyle Makeover Bootcamp and join the waitlist so that way you are the first to know for when it launches later this summer. All right. So God bless you. Looking forward to chatting with you on our next MINDstyle Makeover Monday coming up next week. Continue to make this week as great as you are.